So,
Oh
right.
yeah, your skin and bones turn into something beautiful. And you know I love you so.
Good evening, everybody listening on Twitter and YouTube. This is the first time ever doing this YouTube live, so bear with us here. It's my first time doing it, and obviously Tommy's first time. So, Tommy, do you want to say hello, mate?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, buddy. But no, we'll go over a few little topics, mate. Obviously, WD18 did the thing on Saturday just gone, so we'll go over a bit about that. Also, if you want to, I know obviously you're not a player anymore for us, but we can speak a bit. Obviously, the situation with Watford at the moment, and how you're feeling about Tom Cleverley. Maybe we'll go over a bit about that. Just a few little topics what everyone wants to ask anyway. But
Yeah,
if you're
no problem.
listening on Twitter, leave your comments in, guys. I will get through as many as possible. Also, if you're listening on YouTube, the comments are open, so leave your comments in there, and we will get through as many as possible. But Tommy, obviously, we'll start obviously going over this Saturday. WD18 did a live event at the Vic. Do you want to start a bit about speaking? Obviously, what team did you play in it? I believe.
I did. Yeah. So I was approached to play in it a few months ago, or to come along. A couple of suggestions were put forward as to whether I managed or played or just turned up. And look, it's nice to get the boots on, particularly at the Vicarage Road. So I know how nice the pitch is there. So I thought, what a great opportunity to get back on the pitch and play. So then the idea was thrown at me about to raise some extra money just to auction me off, so the highest bidder I could go into their team. So it raised a bit of extra money that way, which I thought was a really good idea. So no, it was a really really good day, really good turnout, and all done in good spirits. So no, it was a great event all round.
Can we ask? Did you win? How
No.
well did you do?
Well, that's a good question. We struggled a little bit in the league, so we lost all our 3 league games and went through into the plate, I think, or the equivalent of kind of like a plate knockout. So I imagine the bottom 2 teams went into a plate, and the top 2 went into kind of like the Champions Cup. And we got through to the semi-finals in the end. Lost on penalty, so we came out with a little bit of credit. There was a bit of pressure on me with a transfer fee going in. I thought I was a bit rusty, I have to say, but hopefully I'll pay back a bit of my fee. Scored a few goals, gradually got better until I completely ran out of steam in the last game.
Oh,
And then I couldn't walk for about 2 days, but it was
oh
worth it.
God!
Yeah, certainly worth it.
And one of the questions one of my hosts I've worked with in the past wanted me to ask, obviously about your son. Was your son involved? Or I know he's done a lot, obviously with Watford at the moment. Do you want to mention a bit how your son's getting on at the moment?
Yeah, so Max is second year scholar in the academy, so playing in the under 18. So it's been a big couple of years for him stepping into. It's mainly full time football, really. They're really good. The scholarships now, so there's a lot of education involved as well. So they make sure the boys have options to do A levels or equivalent to A level courses, so that if they whatever happens at the end of the 2 years, that they've got a follow on into possibly into universities or into further education. So he's gone through those 2 years now. And thankfully, has been offered a pro contract at Watford, which is great news. So he'll be signing in the summer and moving up into the under 21s and hopefully dipping his toe into a bit of pro football in terms of being in and around the first team if he's lucky at times, and trying to make a career for himself.
That's really good. I have to say, it's good to. Obviously, he's starting off at Watford, isn't he, and working himself up. So that's really great to hear. Anyway.
Thank you. Yeah, he's done really well. He's done really well. He's quite well aware of how tough it is, and every step you take, as brilliant as it is, and you've got to enjoy that moment. It's really tough, and you're really only as good as your last game, so you've got to continually keep improving, keep working hard. So the fact he's been offered the pro contract's brilliant, but it doesn't mean he's going to get a career in football, sadly. So there's still a lot of work ahead of him, and he's aware of that. But it's no, he's brilliant, and you have to, like I say, you've got to enjoy these moments when they come along. And bizarrely, he's been in the academy since he's under nines, maybe. So it's been an incredible journey for him because it's very full on now. The academies these days, he's been training probably 4 times a week for the last, well, before he signed Scholar, for about 4 or 5 seasons. So it's a very full on schedule for them around schoolwork. So it's credit to him, and they've got a really strong team this year actually, and they've done very well. So credit to not just him, the team. Matty Bevans, who runs it's done brilliantly with them, with the assistance of Lloyd Doyley as well. So they've got a really good group around them, which is great.
But that's it. Lloyd Doyley's still doing quite a lot at Watford at the moment as well, isn't he? And I think was he there last day as well?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he played Saturday. Yeah, Doyley's been brilliant. Obviously, I played with Lloyd, and now he's coaching my son. Bit bizarre. Likewise, Jimmy Gilligan was my under-18s coach, and now he's the head of academy. So they so many nice links there.
Yeah.
And yeah, great to have an ex-pro like Lloyd around. I think he's been great for Max, just giving him a bit of advice, and not just him, all the lads as well. Great to have someone of that experience at the club.
Do you still speak a lot with Lloydie anyway? Because obviously he's doing great work at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I do. It's like I say, it's a bit strange. He's obviously part of the coaching staff with my son, so we kind of keep it very much on a more casual basis. Yeah, I don't want to overstep the mark with any questions with him, and try not to get too involved with Max. I let them coach him and get on with that side of it. But yeah, look, of course. There's a lot of old pros. Adrian Mariappa played Saturday as well. I keep in touch with Maps. He's a really good guy. So yeah, lots of good friends over the years that I've played with at Watford that have got bits of involvement. I know Paul Robinson came back to the club this year. So again, good friend of mine. So yeah, really encouraging to have those kind of faces around at the club, and great for the younger lads to see.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I don't know how it's going to work. Obviously, we're doing YouTube Live. I do have a request come through, so I'm going to try bring him on, and hopefully, cause obviously, I've got, like I said, I've got my laptop here, and obviously, I've got the phone for this. So we've got Charlie who's sent a request here, so we'll try bring him on.
Okay.
See if he can hear us. So, Charlie, this is new. So, obviously, you're on 2 things, mate. So, can you hear us for one, mate?
Hi, Tony. How you doing, mate?
All good, Charlie. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. I remember seeing you play many, many times over the years. One of the best players we've had in a long, long time. So it's good to speak to you, mate. I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind. First of all, just a sort of a general Watford question, because I presume you sort of kept an eye on the way the club's being run at the moment. As a player, how do you think it would affect you if you were either at a club or at Watford at the moment, when you've got this endless merry-go-round of managers that have been hired and fired? I think it's something like 23 we've had since Gino Pozzo took over the club. Does it have a big impact on players, and can it unsettle players' performances and their rhythm? And the second question I'd like to ask you, and it's probably my most favourite story about you that I always reminisce. When you left Watford, when Brendan Rodgers went to Reading, I think you were on your way to Reading to sign for them, probably with a heavy heart, because the club were in financial trouble. But then the rumour is that you got a phone call or got wind that Portsmouth were interested, and you politely diverted your car towards Portsmouth instead of Reading. And if that is the case, did it feel good sort of sticking 2 fingers up to Brendan Rodgers? That's pretty much what I wanted to ask you, mate.
Good questions. So in terms of the first one, Charlie, it's a really good question. Look, football's evolved a bit, I think, in the 10 years since I've been retired. In terms of, I always had strong managers in charge of most of the clubs that I played for. So I was lucky enough to have kind of like Neil Warnock, Mick McCarthy, obviously Graham Taylor, people like that Malky Mackay, that were control of the whole club. And I think that's kind of what I was used to and what I grew up with. As I probably got into my more mid-30s, maybe early 30s, clubs did start to go with this more European model of head coaches. So I think as English players, it's something we're less used to even now. I think in Europe, the European players are far more used to coaches only having a certain say on the pitch, and perhaps owners having an input into signings, perhaps how the team plays, even perhaps down to team selection. So it's more a European model that we've got at the club at the moment. It's something I probably would have struggled with. I always felt I worked best with a manager that I knew and that he knew me, and kind of knew my strengths. I always felt a bit more comfortable with that as a player. So I always felt kind of after 4 or 5 months of working with a manager, I felt like you get the best out of me at that point. So the fact that it's constantly, well, we've had so many changes at Watford, it probably would have been something that I maybe wouldn't have got the best out of me. And it's a tricky one. I think, as a fan now of the club, it does frustrate me. I think it's nice to have that continuity and to give a manager an opportunity to have not just 1 or 2 transfer windows, but 3 or 4 to really build a team and to get an ethic and an idea across. And I think it must be so hard for managers coming in to not have that. And it's becoming harder and harder, I think, now for the club to bring better players in and possibly better managers as well, with the turnover of the way the managers come and go, really. I think you get away with it to a point, but my view certainly is that you need a bit of stability. And if you can't be offered that as a player or a coach, then it probably will start to affect the type of players you get in. That's my view. But I've been proved wrong many a time. At the time when the sackings have come about, I think, well, that's a bad decision. But more often than not, they've got away with it at the moment, the owners. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation, really. And then your other question, Reading. Yes, so a lot of that is true. I was told when it was the August, I think it was 2009, window was still open. I got told the club needed to sell me. The club agreed a fee with Reading, where Brendan had just gone to. I'd agreed my wages, agreed a contract. I'd done my medical there, and then I was on the way. I left the house and I was on the way to sign. Reading had an evening game. I left the house at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to go sign, be at the evening game, and to go on the pitch at half-time for the fans to see me. On the way there, my agent called me and said Portsmouth have also just put an offer in, which has matched Reading's offer. Portsmouth are in the Premier League, and my agent said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, this is a horrible situation," because I know Brendan wasn't left under a cloud, but from a player's point of view, he was a really good manager, very, very, very good to work with, and I had no qualms working for him again. There's probably a bit of a selfish view on that, in terms of I thought I played really, really well under him. I liked the style of football he played, so I was thinking that might be a good next step for me. And I also, it was good to know, not maybe good to know, but I knew the situation with Watford, and it was a good fee for them to get in, so it was kind of helping at both ends. And yeah, ultimately, Portsmouth, being a Premier League club, offered me a better wage, a better deal, longer term, and it was a Premier League club, so I couldn't turn that down. At 28, 29, it was a brilliant opportunity again to go and apply myself in the Premier League. So yeah, I had to give Brendan a call and let him down, sadly, which didn't go down very well, of course, but I'm hoping he's forgiven me now. It was 15 years ago or so, so hopefully he's over it.
All it's worth, Tommy, we don't care if he's forgiven you or not, mate, and neither should you. But listen, just to say one more time, thanks for all the memories. One of the better players that we've had at the club, and obviously being a local lad, we still have got that connection with you. And Don't be a stranger. I'd like to see you at the ground here and there when you can. And I wish you all the very best with whatever it is that you decide to do. So thanks again, and thanks, Martin, for letting me come on.
You're welcome, Charlie, and thanks for coming on, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Thanks very much.
That was Tommy, mate. Yeah, so if anyone who else is listening on X, see there's a few of you in the chat. Hopefully you can hear us okay. Obviously we're doing different requests. We've got another request here. Just come through, Tommy. Just bear with us here. This is new for us. So we've got Greg Wendover Horn. Do you want to come off speaker, Greg? And Tommy, can you hear him
Yeah.
okay, mate?
Yeah, I've got you, Greg.
All over
How
to
you doing?
Greg.
Very well, Tommy. Last time we spoke on here, I mentioned the old days when I used to bump into you in the bills in Berko. But Tommy, it's come out this week that Jimmy Gilligan's leaving Watford Football Club. I've been to a few meetings where Jimmy has spoken and how he's turned that academy around. As a parent with a son in the academy, do you think that's something we should be worried about, that Jimmy is leaving?
I've heard some rumours myself. Yes. Look, until I know one way or the other, it's a bit hard to comment for definitely. But look, if he is leaving, then yeah, that's. How is it? Okay. Right. Okay.
Yesterday, yes.
Okay. Right. Well, in that case, yeah. Look, of course, it's sad. You don't want to lose that. He's been in academy football for a long time, had lots of success, moved around. Obviously, brought players like myself, Ashley Young. My younger brother as well, he coached. He's had a Marvin Sordell, Lloyd Doyle. He's brought, had a big impact in a lot of players at the club over the years. So I know for a fact he's a bit of a sounding board for all the coaches in the academy, and he's a really good guy, fountain of knowledge when it comes to coaching football. So yeah, it will be a big loss, sad, but It happens, unfortunately, quite a lot in academy football. There's a lot of poaching going on, and the bigger clubs sadly have deeper pockets and can offer often better contracts to coaches, management at that level, and possibly that's what's happened. And it's tough for Watford to compete if that's the case. But yeah, I wish him all the very best if he has gone, because yeah, he's had a tremendous impact on Max. I know that much, and certainly myself over the years. So it will be sad, but we've still got Richard Johnson there running things as well. They were kind of running it together, so we're still very much in good hands.
Okay, that's I've been to a couple of meetings where Jimmy talked about how he inherited the academy and where it was then to where it is now, and it sounds like he's done an absolutely fantastic job. Along with Jono, of course, but thanks for the question, and see you at the next season.
Yeah, thank you.
Greg, mate.
Thank you very much.
I think that's just. So that's Greg. But if anyone else wants to come and have a chat with Tommy through Twitter, hit the mic button, leave your comments in the box. We'll get through as many as possible. And people listening on Twitter, if you've got any questions you want to ask Tommy Smith, leave them in the box and we will read some. So Tommy, while we're waiting for the next one, mate, we'll speak about obviously Tom Cleverley. When you heard the news, Watford Football Club decided to get rid of Tom Cleverley, how did you feel? Did you think it was a bad decision, mate, or what do you reckon on it?
Yeah, look, if it was my choice, from the outside looking in, I certainly wouldn't. I would have kept him on. I think my view over the course of the 12 months he's been at the club, that we've got that passion back. We've got a team spirit. We're a much harder team to beat. You can clearly see the playing style, what he's introduced. He's had very little support in terms of transfers and players coming in. He's had little to work with. So with what he's had to work with, I think he's got the best out of a lot of players. You've seen huge improvements with likes of Shaq Fatadza, Kayembe, Loser. He's brought Matty Pollock in. Ryan Andrews for periods this season, I think, has improved as well and has performed admirably as a young player. Doumbé has come in as well. I thought he's looked pretty lively. He's got better and better as the season went on. So I think that's a lot of how I judge a manager is on the players and improving them. And I think certainly as a club we've lacked that link between the fans and the players in terms of, I think there's been a bit of a distance, and I think the players, certainly it felt like maybe there was a lack in just a couple of % off that real desire to want to win and fight for each other on the pitch. And I think during Tom's reign, we've got that back and we've got more of a team to be proud of as fans. So I think so much credit goes to Tom for what he's done and the way he's left the club. I can see his form hasn't been great. And look, as you always know with the owners, if you lose 3 or 4 on a bounce, that there's that concern. They could pull the trigger. There were rumours in January that was going to happen. Obviously, there was a huge backlash, and I don't know if that had a part to play in why he stayed. But his form was poor from Christmas onwards. And was I surprised? Probably not, because of the way Watford operate. Was I disappointed? Yes, because look, he's a great guy. I know Tom. I played with Tom. We've spoken quite a bit since he's been manager. We keep in touch, so we've kind of spoke on a number of occasions, and I know how much effort he's put into his time as manager and how he's really tried to improve not just the players on the pitch, but what's happened off the pitch as well. So yeah, look, disappointing it is, but I've probably got, slightly one-sided and very biased in terms of me knowing Tom personally as well and having played with him. So, I've been rooting for him from the start. I really have, and I'm absolutely certain he will go on and have a great career as a manager. He's a bright lad. He's got a brilliant work ethic. You can see the players responded to him. We were, and I thought rightly so. We were favourites to be in the relegation fight, and that's what I expected this season. I thought it was going to be with the players that left, with the squad he had to work with. I was really worried this year that we would be sucked into it and we'd be looking over our shoulder. So the fact that we weren't and that we were fine to get a playoff spot is credit to him. And I think most people see that.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? He's had a tough. He's done well. It was his first job as a manager. Last season, he got the team to survive, didn't he? So he did remarkable, but he wasn't backed throughout the season. And it's a tough one, isn't it? Because literally, he was on a sinking ship, wasn't he? We know what Gino Potts is like, and he wanted his own man. So he's got him now, anyway, hasn't he? So
yeah,
but the fans showed us support anyway, didn't they, throughout the season? So
yeah, they did. Look, for me, that's the big thing, and I know he'll be delighted about how the fans have embraced him and treated him. Which, again, he can hold his head really high. And I completely agree. Look, we've struggled to score goals. We haven't really had a goal scorer for a while. The Championship's relentless. It's tough. It's where I spent most of my career. I know what it's like, and there's no. It's no denying that you look now, even this season, you look at the top two, they've got 2 managers that know how to win football matches in the Championship. Farke, Scotty Parker, both have got promotions. They know what it's like. The spine of the team has played in the Championship. Sheffield United, Chris Wilder, spine of the team, played in the Championship. There's no, to me, it's pretty clear why these teams are doing so well. Sunderland break the mould slightly, but still very strong. Coventry, the core of their team lost in the playoff final. They've kept them together, and now they're back there again. you need to know how to play in the Championship. It's a relentless,
Yeah.
tough league, and you need players and a manager, for me anyway, to do well in it, that know it and understand that level of football. And that's always going to be a concern, I think.
Before we go on to this question Rio's sent me, I just want to mention, obviously, the playoff semi-final last night between Sunderland and Coventry. What do you think of that game? Obviously, the two games, because I thought they were pretty amazing games for spectators anyway. Are you happy Sunderland? It's a Sunderland-Sheffield United playoff final?
Yeah, well, look, I played at Sunderland. They're one of my old teams, so I'm always rooting for them. I've always got a bit of fondness for the teams you played for. I loved it up there. Absolutely brilliant club, huge fan base. I just think it's amazing. We are so lucky to have a Championship that Coventry sold out. I don't know how many they hold in their stadium, but it's got to be
35,000, isn't it?
Yeah, packed out. Atmosphere was electric. Stadium alight again, 45,000, packed out. Sheffield United, 30 odd thousand, packed out. Bristol City, again, another massive club. All these states, it's incredible. It's really is, and this is the second tier of our national league. It's quite unbelievable. I bet countries around the world can't believe it when they see the support and the size of the football and how big it is here. Brilliant. And both go all right. Sheffield United romped home to Bristol City. I still enjoy watching the games, though. There's always something about playoff games that there's just that bit of mystery. Anything can happen. And last night was brilliant, wasn't it? The last minute goal,
One of the best ones.
You can't help but smile when you see the fans and the rejoice. Yeah, they're going absolutely bonkers. The players are going nuts. It's great. Yeah, it's what the Championship again. It's why I love the Championship. I think it's the best league to watch, without a doubt.
Yeah, it really is. It really
Brilliant.
is. Anyone could do it. But Rio has sent a question. Well, it's a bit of more one in the question here, so I'll read you the questions here. Who was your favourite manager and player? Who was your favourite manager and player you played with? Also, the toughest you played against.
Okay, good questions. Managers really tough. I've so many good managers. I've been really lucky in my career. I was spoilt rotten that I came through with Graham Taylor and he gave me my debut, and what a man to have around. Just to be with, and a guy that knew so much and was so on the ball and had such an affinity with the club. And that was a brilliant period for Watford as well, with back-to-back promotions. That's just as I was breaking through, so League One to Championship, or back then it was League Two to League One, and then up to the Premier League, and to play. I was so lucky to come through at that period of time, and for him to kind of take me under my wing with Kenny Jackett, Luther Blissett at the club. It felt, it really was a kind of a golden period for the club, but also brilliant to be part of. So Graham's really, probably out of all of them, was very much not like a father figure, because I had my dad, who's been brilliant throughout my entire career and has been my absolute rock. But Graham was certainly someone that you could trust, and that you knew he had your best interests, which you never quite know in football. You are kind of a commodity, really, but Graham, you always felt he had your best interests. So always huge place for him in terms of my favourite manager I worked for. And then behind it, probably, I don't know, there are bits of different managers that I've loved. Neil Warnock, in terms of motivation, getting you up for games, knowing how and when to appear and come in, and you wouldn't see him a lot through the week, Neil. So he's a real impact manager, but absolutely brilliant at that. Probably the best in terms of preparation for a game would be Brendan Rodgers, working on stuff through the week that he wants to introduce on a Saturday, and the level of detail he would go to in the press, in the shape, in the danger men for the opposition, in how we're going to break them down. Adi Boothroyd, again, was brilliant in terms of getting the team morale and team spirit together. He was exceptional at that. So yeah, really lucky. It was probably, those three. Malky, good friend of mine, great manager. Yeah, he was brilliant to work for. Really enthusiastic, full of character. Players kind of would run through brick walls for him as well. I think he learnt a lot from Brendan and Adi and kind of put the two together.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, really, really lucky to have kind of 5 or 6 managers that I've really loved working under.
That's really good question, Rio. Thank you, mate.
And
Thank you, Tommy.
there was a couple other bits, weren't there? So in terms of best player I've played with, probably Adel Taarabt at QPR. He was an unbelievable talent, a hell of an enigma, and just could do things on the pitch that I've never seen anyone do. He had a wonderful season when we got promoted at QPR. So he's probably the best I've played with. And against, I don't know, probably Rio Ferdinand, I think, or Jonathan Woodgate were the two toughest centre halves I played up against. They were the two that really stood out. Quick, strong, good on the ball. I found it really tough against both of those.
They were great defenders, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. They were always a tough afternoon against those two. Yeah.
But no, great answers, buddy. Pete Thorpe has asked me to ask you, who from the academy group, apart from Max, should we be most excited about?
Ooh, okay.
Great question.
That is a good question. It's really tough because these players evolve so quickly, and I think that's why it's so hard to be a coach in the academy football, because until you see them step up to the next level, it's really hard to know who can cope, who can't, who then shines and adjusts to the level of play and the speed quick enough. The Max's age group are the ones I know the best because I've seen them for years and years. They've got a number of good players. Amin Nabizada is the one at the moment that has stepped into the first team along with Xavier Messiah Edwards and Leo Espana. They're kind of the three that have really kicked on this season from that age group. So those three are the ones that I would probably say to look out for, certainly next season. You'd expect them to start to have more of an input with the first team. But there's a number of other players that are kind of just sitting behind them that are, if they keep developing the way they are, they've got really good chances of progressing into the first team. So, but they're a very strong age group and they've done really well this year. And not that I'm liking it to the Man United period when they brought all those players through, but it's got that feel to it that they've done really well. They've gone beyond what a lot of other under 18 age groups have done, and hopefully they set that precedent that there now is a route for under 18s to go into the first team at Watford, and it gives confidence to the age groups below, that they go, wow, okay, that's the standard they've set. We need to do the same and follow on. So hopefully we get 4 or 5 from Max's age group that can step up, and then that starts this conveyor belt again, because I think it's something that's been missing a little bit from Watford over the last kind of decade or so. We haven't quite had enough. We definitely haven't had enough players getting into the first team from the academy.
Do you wonder why that is? Why is Watford being the sort of club that hasn't really brought players through the academy?
To be honest, you have to be so engaged with the academy from the top down, and it's really hard if the club have got their focus elsewhere. So if the owners, through to the first team coach, through to the under 21 manager, there has to be communication all the way up and down, and like so that there is a route and that it's quite a small pathway in terms of how a player gets to be on the fringes of the first team or training with them. And I think that's probably not been there for whatever reason, and I'm not sure why. Max is, I'm privy to it now a little bit more because I see the journey Max is on, and I see that and speak to Richard Johnson and Jimmy Gilligan, and I understand what's happening above. And there is that line into the first team now if they're doing well enough. So I think that's just been a bit broken before, and for some reason it's not quite been there, and the focus hasn't been on the academy in terms of trying to find that pathway for them. And then there's so much competition locally. You think, with really realistic within our catchment, you've got Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, unfortunately Luton, Milton Keynes, that can probably pinch a lot of our players. And if players feel like they've got better opportunities elsewhere, then of course the parents' heads will get turned and go elsewhere, which is probably what's been happening, really.
Great. That was a great question again, Pete. And but Ryan has also put, have you thought about getting into coaching?
I have a lot now that I'm a bit older. I think I will certainly get back into coaching, but I don't know at what level and how or where yet. I've coached. I coached Max when he was younger in his Sunday league team, kind of under 8s, under 9s. My daughter now plays, so there's an opportunity potentially there. I could get involved with her just at a grassroots level. I think that's probably what I'll end up doing. In terms of kind of higher than that and professionally, it wasn't something I wanted to do when I was a player. And that's probably the time you need to start getting your badges in place when you retire, so that you've got the contacts, so you can kind of almost move into that part of football post-retirement. And I didn't really want to do that when I retired. I just wanted a bit of a clean break and just try something new and try something away from football, which is what I've done. I kind of regret that at certain times, and looking back and think, it would have been good to be a coach. But yeah, it's probably, certainly in terms of like professionally or at a good level, it's probably not something I can do now. But hopefully I can take on a little bit of local coaching. I'll be looking at that.
We'll never say never, Tommy.
No, that's true.
Anything could happen.
Yeah.
But obviously, Greg's put another comment in the box. So it's a really good question, actually. What are your thoughts on Category A academy taking players from the likes of Watford, like Harry Amos being the last one?
Yeah, it's tough. It's unfortunately the way of the game at the moment. You've got, like with Harry Amos, who was in Max's age group for 5-6 years. They grew up together. He broke into the England team, started playing up an age group. You get noticed, and if clubs such as Man United, can can put offers in and turn your head, it's really hard for a club like Watford to keep them, unless, like I say, you can say to these players, look, what are the chances of you getting in the first team at these clubs and becoming regular players? Whereas if you stay at Watford, you'll get in the first team quicker, you'll get more opportunities here, you'll get games under your belt at a championship level, possibly, hopefully, Premier League level. And then we'll look, if a club comes in at that point, then of course we'll let you go, but stay with us. And I think until Watford can start doing that, then you are always open and susceptible to losing your best players to bigger clubs, unfortunately. And it's happened to Watford a lot. Obviously, Jadon Sancho as well was at the club and left and went to Man City. It happened to Raheem Sterling when I was at QPR. He was there as a kid. Liverpool pinched him at 16 years old, and went on to be a huge player for them. So it is tough. It is tough for the smaller clubs to do that, unless you can really offer them a route quickly into the first team, which for me is something that I think, Watford can offer these players. And hopefully that'll be something we can start seeing more and more over the coming years.
Well, I've got two things here to read to you, Tommy, from somebody called Dean Quick. But I'll read them now. I don't think they're really a question though. Okay, I went to school with Jack. My sister Haley went to school with you. My brother Darren was 1 year above you. You was always a huge. Sorry, you was always. Where's it gone? Sorry, I'm literally clicking on my laptop. You was always a
No
huge
problem.
favourite for me through the years, being a boy from Hemel and someone who went to the same school as me. My nephew Tommy, I'm sure, is named. Then this next one was Tommy as a result of you and Tommy Mooney. And on my fridge, I have a picture of you and him, the two Tommies, so you realise the impact you had on the club and how much we appreciate you. I thought I just want to read them out to you, mate.
Oh, that's very nice. That's really nice. No, it's weird. I don't know. I don't know. I grew up in a village, Potton End on the edge of Hemel. Went to Hemel School and loved football. And never, I think it's a bit different. But all my friends wanted to be professional footballers. I think most kids do now. And yeah, I was fortunate enough to have a talent and to be able to apply myself to get the opportunity to get into the first team by coming through the academy. And I was lucky enough that it was something that the club were really pushing then. And like I touched on earlier, the likes of, Kenny Jackett was my youth team manager, and then he was first team manager the season I was coming through. And obviously then Graham came back to the club and took over from him. And so you need a lot of luck on the way. You need to keep fit as well. And I was fortunate enough that I kept fit. And it's great that I had the opportunity to do that, and it's lovely to hear that I've had an impact on people, because it does feel a bit strange now that I'm retired. I've got 3 kids, I've got a job. It feels a million years ago, to be honest, but it's lovely to hear. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, mate, Dean, for leaving that for Tommy. But no, before we wrap things up, is there anybody else? I can see there's still a few of you listening on Twitter, and 83 of you watching live on YouTube. Thank you so much for the first ever live we're doing. I thought I've got to get my favourite player on, Tommy Smith, to do this. So.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone.
But no, Tommy, obviously, I'll wait to see if I'll leave it another few minutes to see if anyone else requests or leaves a comment. But for me, what do you think is going to happen this season for Watford? Are you worried that we're going to be in a relegation battle, or are you excited? Obviously, new manager. We've been linked with a load of new players coming through, especially today and over the past week. And a new manager, what Gino wanted, who none of us have heard of until a few days ago.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of him, but that's common practice for the last few. Well, for a lot of the managers we've had, I've kind of had to Google them. How do I fit? It's a really good question. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because I am slightly concerned, yes, because I'm a huge believer, and I touched on this earlier, that you need a core group of players and a manager that knows the Championship. To get in the top 6. Unless a miracle happens, that's my view. You have to be hard to beat. You've got to go away from home, be able to get a 0-0 draw. You've got to be able to dig in on cold, horrible nights when you're knackered and you've played kind of Saturday, Tuesday. So you need a group of players that are really honest and understand that Championship's sometimes not about playing well and on nice pitches in nice weather, and it's about really digging in as a group and really loving one another and going, I want to kind of get a point here for my mate, even though we're playing awfully, we're going to get a 0-0. And I just worry a little bit that with the manager coming in and the players we're linked with, have we got that? That's my big concern. But having said that, we've got a lot of good young players.
You do?
We've got a lot of talent in the squad. If we can keep everyone fit, we haven't got a deep squad, but if we can keep the likes of Bar fit and Chakfatadze, if Doumbia hits the ground running, if we can keep hold of Loser, Matty Pollock, we've got the basis of a really good team there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ifs and
eventually
buts.
a good goalkeeper as well.
Yeah, true.
I have to get that one in.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, agree. So look, there's a lot to be positive about. We got some young players coming through that hopefully can again have impacts. it's just a really tough, relentless league. And you look at the teams at the bottom this year, like Derby's, Preston's, Luton go down. It's so easy to get sucked in. But then you look at the likes of Coventry, who were near the bottom just before Christmas and have gone on an amazing run and got in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's why I love it. It's the best league. It really is. I love watching it. I loved playing in it. So anything could really happen. Who knows? Honestly, you probably think I'm being the history and the experience I've got, I'll have some insight, but I really don't. It's kind of, close your eyes and see what happens. But, we've got every chance of doing well. But likewise, we've got every chance of it being quite a long, tough season as well.
The livable Watford supporter. Eh?
Well, exactly, right? Exactly. Look, I mean, it can change so quickly. I know that. All in the same season as well. You can find yourself fighting relegation and then all of a sudden on a good run thinking, oh, we could get in the playoffs here. Which makes it great, doesn't it? But yeah, look, it's we could be in a lot worse position, put it that way.
Yeah.
So I'm positive. I'm looking forward to it. You've got to be. You've got to be. And
Yeah.
The new guy, from what I understand, he likes working with the young players. He's got a good history getting clubs promoted. So there's some real positives there. He's 42, so he's going to be young. He's being enthusiastic. This will be a huge opportunity for him. Look, all foreign coaches want to come to England to prove a point. And can they, for him, he'll be thinking, if I do well, I might be able to get a Premier League job off the back of this.
Yeah.
Like other Watford managers have done. So, he'll be here to really make a mark. So that's a good sign.
Well, obviously, the last question, obviously, on the header here, we're going to be speaking a bit about mental health, what we haven't gone over yet, but we'll go over that last. But one question I do want to ask you, not Watford, a bit on the opposite direction, Luton related.
Yeah.
How did you react, make it a bit more fun, when Luton got relegated this season, or the end of the season?
Look, it's very different being an ex-player. I enjoy when we play Luton, so it's probably a bit controversial, but I actually would prefer to keep him in the league because I think the two Derby games are the best games of the season.
They really are.
Yes. Look, my next door neighbour's a huge Luton fan, Jono, and I've taken great pleasure in winding him up about Luton getting relegated, and I'll be mentioning it a lot next season, in some of their fixtures that they've got, and reminding him of them. But look, I'd probably would prefer them to stay in the league. So we've got those two Derby games that you can really look forward to, and the atmospheres are electric. I just think they're the best games of the season. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I'm not I'm not too sad for them at the same time.
That's a bit. I'm pretty sure every Watford fan's quite unsimilar. They're going to miss the Derby games because it's not the same when they're not in the league, but in another way, they're happy they've gone down and we're in a league above them. So we're getting the bragging rights there, because obviously when they went up the other year,
Absolutely.
and they got the bragging rights. So and they had a double relegation, so it's spot on there, isn't it?
True. Yeah.
So obviously, all Watford fans are on that 3 stages of it, aren't they? So, but they're going to miss the derbies obviously for next season. But no, obviously, the last topic I want to mention a bit before we finish, Tommy, is obviously mental health. 2 stages of this. Obviously, when you was playing about mental, was there much talk about it? And obviously nowadays, obviously with your son as well, and for today's players, do you want to mention a bit about your views on it at the moment?
Yeah, of course. It's really relevant. I think the awareness around it now is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was a bit of a forbidden subject when I was certainly younger, coming through as a younger pro. It was head down, get on with it, and you couldn't show any weakness. And certainly, if you were struggling, it was not something you ever felt you could bring up to anyone, really. It was something you kept personal, kept away, and it was almost treated. And I've grown up like this, a bit of a weakness. Right, God, what's wrong with me? And so I think it's brilliant now that you can start to have these honest conversations, that it's something that you need to approach, and it's not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it's something you've got to embrace, and you've got to talk to people about it. So I think the society now we live in has come on so much, and it's a huge benefit that we are starting to progress. There's a long way to go still, particularly in football. And I listen to a lot of players' podcasts. Recent one was Mikel Antonio, who was just talking about how he's had one and how his game's improved so much before he's got this awful injury, because of the help of a psychologist, and he felt he was suffering with mental health issues. So I think there's so much of a link for footballers between, if you're doing well on the pitch, your life's great off the pitch. And that will never change. And if you're suffering on the pitch, it's so hard for it not to likewise suffer off as well, because you take it home and it affects everything you do all day, every day. That's not changed from my day to now. But I think there's so much more support and help and awareness. Academies, again, getting a lot better at it. There's so much more they could be doing. And I think it's still very much a bravado, and you've got this perceived image of you've got to be strong still. And I think there's still a long way to go in the game, but we're certainly making big strides, which is great. And the fact we can now talk about it and it becomes something that we regularly speak about in the press amongst ourselves is, the more, particularly men, the more we do it, and making sure we're checking in on our friends and whatnot, then we're heading in the right direction, without a doubt.
That's great answers, Tommy. Really good. It's good to hear, obviously, from a professional footballer in the past, obviously, from what it was back then to obviously now. Do you reckon it's quite similar for the players now? Obviously, do you reckon they can speak with obviously other teammates or obviously opposition players, or do you reckon it's quite similar?
I think there's outlets now. So most clubs now have the opportunity so they have dedicated members of staff that they can go and talk to that help and that are there, and so that there is a support network put in place for them. I think still a lot of it, from what I understand, is down to the player to reach out. Yes, there are conversations, but I think unless you actually, as a player, open up yourself, it's still down to the player to step forward. I think more can be done about, even if a player hasn't got any problems or says he hasn't, there still should be regular support networks in place for him. And I'm not sure that's quite in place yet. I think for a lot of the bigger clubs it is, but I think it hasn't filtered down yet through to a lot of the other clubs. So there's still a lot of work to be done. But it's good, and certainly, speaking to Max, I've got a bit of an insight into the academy and what it's like there, and I think there certainly is a lot more support and a network in place for them, because it's particularly in football, it's a really tough place to be. It's as much as you are supported, it's down to performance, and you still, if the club don't deem you good enough at whatever age, they will release you. That's a fact. So there's a concern that, almost it's like an apple falling off a tree, right? You just don't know how hard it's going to hit the ground, and these kids get released and, they can really hit the ground really hard, and they're almost on their own at that point. So that there's so many nuances to it. It's going to be a long time, I think, before clubs can offer such a huge support, and money's obviously a big thing, part of it. These, particularly, the smaller clubs, to try and offer support for kids is almost impossible with the finances they've got in place. But the awareness is growing and growing and growing. So we're heading in the right direction, certainly.
Well, thank you for all your great answers tonight, mate. Obviously, you literally you've answered every question, so it's absolutely brilliant. But no, the last one we'll wrap up with, Tommy, and then I'll let you go for the night. And then obviously, if you're watching a football game, I'm pretty sure is there another playoff game tonight? I don't know.
I believe there is. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to have a look who's on tonight, but it's great.
Yeah.
And it's a great time of year because there's so many. I think it's the League One tonight. I think it might be Stockport Orient, the second leg
It's actually,
tonight.
I think it's Stockport Late Orient, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I'm pretty sure that's on. So that'll be a good one. 2-2, isn't
It
it?
will.
So yeah, I'll
But
be
no,
watching that.
yes. But like I say, the last question is, will you be around watching Watford a lot next the season? And what's your plans for the season? You got anything lined up doing with Watford?
Yeah, so I do a bit of ambassador work at the club, so I'll be hopefully back doing that next season. So I've started doing some on match days, just going into the corporate lounges and speaking with clients there that have come in to watch the game. So I've enjoyed doing that. So hopefully I'll be back doing that next season, which is great. I've really enjoyed doing that. And yeah, I'm really lucky. I love watching Max play. I kind of travel the country. I mean, well, I went to Burnley on Friday, 7 p.m. kickoff for their playoff that they just won. So, and then I'm back down to Bristol to watch them in the final on Friday. So I'm doing my mileage, but I'm loving, I just love it. It's just, my weekends for that. My daughter plays as well. So I'm still football mad. Love it. Love watching
Yeah.
football. It's, it's still in my blood. So hopefully we'll be able to watch Max in the first team soon. Fingers crossed. I'll be doing all, praying that happens. It will be a lovely, lovely thing for me. A huge emotional moment if he can. But if not, we'll still be going down and watching. So I'm sure I'll be down at the Vic a lot next season.
Well, we wish you all the best, and obviously
Thank you.
you for all the stuff you're doing in the future, mate. And thank you again, Tommy, for coming to speak with me tonight, and everyone else listening and taking part. It's been a pleasure, mate.
Welcome. Thank you for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
But no, if you guys want to leave comments back or listen back, obviously I will post them up if you haven't seen them, so you can get to watch them. But thank you all for listening. I'll let Tommy go now. But no, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you again, and thank you, Tommy.
Welcome. Thanks very much. Good night. Bye, mate.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.